So, just like that, we're already into the second round of the playoffs. And the Bucks are already down 1-0.
Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now, the Funk Soul Brother. Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now, the Funk Soul Brother. Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now, the Funk Soul Brother. Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Right about now, about now, about now, about now.
What's poppin', y'all? It's your man, Cloudboy Bales, and welcome to another episode of Wisco Sports. Today's episode, I will be making my predictions for round 2. We already saw two games take place already. Obviously, the official first round did not end until yesterday. Obviously, the only game going to 7 games in this interesting playoffs was the Clippers and the Mavs, where the Clippers defeated the Mavericks. Obviously, I'm going to go with who I think is going to win in the second round of the playoffs. You know, and it's interesting. I'm very interested to see what happens. But I went 6 of 8 out of the 8 matchups. But it's interesting, very interesting what it was. So I'm just going to try to be quick on these because I talk too much, but we'll see what happens. So anyways, I talked a little bit already about the Clippers defeating the Mavericks. Shout out to Luka Doncic, though, the Mavericks. I knew that was going to be a very tough series, but I think Kawhi Leonard and Paul George were just too much for him. They're going to be facing the Utah Jazz. Lost game 1 without Donovan Mitchell, but then Donovan Mitchell returns and they gentlemen sweep the Memphis Grizzlies. Even though Ja Morant played fantastic, you know, I think the Utah Jazz were just too much. So this is a matchup that I'm very hesitant to talk about because I don't believe either of these teams are really, talented enough. As what I know, the Clippers are going small ball. They don't have a starting center. They basically rotate everybody out and just shoot threes. Whatever guy is open. Seemed to work in the final 5 games, really. And that's what's crazy. They don't really like starting big men. No when Serge Ibaka's going to be back. But it's interesting that they're going to go like this, and it's actually working, which is a big surprise to me. Now, the Utah Jazz, Donovan Mitchell's been great. Obviously, the team that I thought they were last year is really emerging as a fantastic team. And, you know, they really showed why they belonged in the playoffs. I thought Ja Morant did fantastic. Grizzlies definitely fought and played offense, but I think the Jazz were just too much for them. So I think the Jazz definitely really came through. I don't believe the Clippers, though, are a legit team. They have to prove themselves. I don't know why they don't start big men. They got Rudy Gobert in the middle. I mean, it's clearly obviously they have to start a center. I mean, otherwise they're going to get Rudy open so many times underneath the basket, and it's just going to be too hard. But it did work. This lineup did work, and it forced the big men to the outside, and that's a crazy thing that works. So, you know what? Clippers could actually take this. It's a big possibility. But I think Utah is proven that they are a playoff team. Now, do I think they are going to go to the finals? I don't know yet. But I think I'm going to take the Utah Jazz. I don't think the Clippers are a legitimate team. So I think Utah, even though I think Utah still isn't legitimate, I think Utah will still win this series in 7 games. This one's going to be a very tight one, but I think we're going to see a lot of great games from both Donovan Mitchell on Utah and Kawhi Leonard on the Clippers. Next up, we are going to it's going to be Phoenix taking on the Nuggets. That's a great matchup. I think Phoenix right now is the team to probably beat in the West. I think they're the ones that are probably the best team. But if there is a team that really wants to upset them, it is the Denver Nuggets. Of course, Denver lost Jamal Murray at the very end of the season, and that was a huge blow. Everyone's like, oh, it looks like there goes Denver's chances, because a lot of times we've seen Murray being a big key factor for them in the playoffs. Of course, I think it's a lock that Jokic is probably going to win the MVP this year. He's just having an incredible season. but the emergence of Michael Porter Jr. in the playoffs is a real reason why they're winning games. You got Jokic and Gordon dominating, and then Michael Porter Jr. is just a great shooter, and he can do anything. I mean, it's great. Obviously, they're starting guards. They had to replace Gary Harris in a trade for, of course, Aaron Gordon, and then Jamal Murray got injured, so obviously they had to replace him with people, so Freddie Campazzo just comes out of nowhere and starts doing really good. Obviously, he's not a big offensive player, but he's a great assist guy. And then Austin Rivers, who they signed in free agency because he's just been from team, really stepped up as well. And then also off the bench, you got Monte Morris and Paul Millsap and Michael Green also being great factors. Obviously, that's just a big men team. That's how they are. And then, of course, you got on the opposites. You got Devin Booker, who's just been phenomenal. From what I see, this is a series that I could definitely see going either way. I think Denver really proved themselves against Portland. I wasn't thinking Denver was going to play well, knowing that Damian Lillard played phenomenal in the playoffs, but his rest of the team did not. That was unfortunate for Portland. Please leave Portland, Damian. You're never going to win a championship there. Sorry, I just had to put it out there. But, yeah, I think Denver really does have a shot, but I think with the way I've seen Devin Booker, and I'm not saying Chris Paul's been a great factor, but he is obviously Chris Paul. Booker and Ayton are just some fantastic players. They have a great, well-rounded team. Monty Williams has just done a fantastic year. He's going to be coach of the year. It's just been a great year for Phoenix, and from what I believe, I'm going to take Phoenix winning this series in 6 games. Jokic is going to come. They're going to come out all with it. But I think Devin Booker has just been too good. It's just going to be another team really trying to fight. I could see Denver winning this series. I absolutely could. But I think I like Phoenix's chances, especially their defense is outstanding. All right, on to the East. We got the Philadelphia 76ers and the Atlanta Hawks. We already seen one game take place in this series. We saw, believe it's crazy enough, we saw Atlanta take game 1. They upset Philly in game 1, even with Joel Embiid. This was a game where Atlanta led the whole way. Philly tried to mount a comeback, and Atlanta held them off. It was only a one-score game, and then Bogdanovich hits a 3, and John Collins has some crazy alley-oop dunk set up by Trae Young. Trae Young looks phenomenal. If there is an MVP player that might, obviously, if the team goes a long way, Trae Young has been playing at another level. He basically was the reason why New York did not even stand a chance in the playoffs. Trae Young was unstoppable. If he keeps playing like this, I don't know how any team can beat Atlanta, because they have the most well-rounded team. Of course, a lot of their guys were injured throughout the year. Nate McMillan steps in at head coach after the head coach gets fired, and McMillan, who has playoff experience and a better team, obviously gets their experience. So you got Trae Young, you got Bogdanovich, you got Hunter, Collins, Capella, Kevin Huerter, Lou Williams. Oh my goodness. And then, yeah, they're still missing Cam Reddish. Don't even forget about that guy. I mean, and then, of course, Danilo Gallinari was supposed to start, but then they're like, let's just have it on the bench. I don't know if that team, I think it's even better than the Sixers team, in my opinion. Now, I think the Sixers are definitely the most overrated team in the playoffs. They won the first seed because they had a great defense, but without Joel Embiid, they're nothing. And honestly, when it comes to the playoffs, Joel Embiid's always injured. Ben Simmons is always slacking. I mean, Tobias Harris is a good player, but he's no star, in my opinion. And then, of course, the other guys are Seth Curry and Danny Green, and they're supposed to be making shots. And, I mean, they did improve slightly with their bench, but Philly just... I mean, their only bench player that I think actually is slightly good would have to be Furkan Korkmaz, but he's just a good shooter. There's really nothing to it. And Maxi's been getting some strength, and yeah, they got Dwight Howard, but he's just a backup center. So, really, looking at it, I actually see Atlanta winning this series. I never thought I'd say it. I thought Philly was going to win it, and they were going to go to the thing, but obviously it's proof. I think Philly is just jinxed when it comes to the playoffs. I don't know what it is, but I actually think Atlanta has a completely well-rounded, better team than Philly. So with that, I'm going to take Atlanta winning this series in 6. Of course, you're going to get a monster game out of Joel Embiid in Game 2, and they'll win, but you're going to have to go to Atlanta for Game 3 and 4, and that's going to be real tough for Philly. So I'm going to take Atlanta. I think they have a way better team than Philly. Next up, Milwaukee and the Milwaukee Bucks and the Nets. Of course, my Milwaukee Bucks lost Game 1 to the Nets. James Harden goes out with an injury. Of course, their team has just been cursed with injuries all year, but Blake Griffin steps up, and I think the Nets just had so much intensity and so much purpose, and they just felt well-rounded. The Bucks just did not have a good shooting night. I was going to make a video on this, but I was busy. I had a busy night, and I just needed, obviously, a night to myself. I didn't have a chance to really even watch the second half of the game. I was so busy with things going on. So I just was like, I didn't have a chance to even make a video. So I'm happy. So obviously, talking about it, I think the Bucks, if they make their shots just like they did against Miami, don't forget, Game 1, we only went 5 out of 30. We went 5 out of 32 or something, and we went 6 out of 30. We had bad shooting night. Same thing happened to Game 1. So maybe that's just a bad game. I'm not in any worry right now. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. James Harden will probably eventually come back, but the thing is, if Brooklyn wins Game 2 without James Harden again, which I'm talking about tonight, that's going to be very sticky situation for the Bucks, because they're going to be coming home and Harden could be coming back, and that's going to be a problem because it's going to probably be shown. Like, Harden on the Nets has shown that I don't think anyone can beat them, but yeah, the Bucks have great defense and all, but they just weren't on their game. So, of course, I'm so skeptical on who to even pick here. Now, here's the thing. I've been told by so many people that if I pick the Nets, I'm not a Bucks fan. What? I'm not a true fan. Why am I making videos then? I commentate sports, okay? I was so nervous that we weren't even going to beat Miami because of our playoff struggles from the previous 2 years. And then we swept Miami, and I'm like, oh, so we are better than we were last year. But the fact is, we are playing the team that is likely going to probably win the finals now that the Lakers now the Lakers are gone. Like, they're probably right now the team to beat. Milwaukee is the team that I think has the best chance to dethrone them. Personally, I don't think any of the teams from the West can do it. I think the Milwaukee Bucks are the only team that really has a legitimate chance to do it. A lot of people think we're actually going to do it, which shocks me. And then if that's the case, I think we're going to the finals. Now, personally, it's just one game. It's just one game. But from what I see, I think this game is going to go to 7. And I hope that this just does not curse them, because I'm going to get a lot of crap from people. But I'm picking the Bucks. I got to do it. I'm a big fan. I got to do it. I'm not... As much as I think the Nets are a fantastic team, I say we'll set them in 7 games. I think we're going to do it 7 games. I think this is good. All games are going to be one home field advantage. I think the Nets will win tonight. The Bucks will win Game 3 and Game 4. It's going to be hard for them to come into the home crowd. And the Nets will come back in Game 5, Game 6. It's just going to be all home wins. Or maybe Bucks get an upset there, and Nets get an upset at our home. I'm thinking that. But from what I see, I think the Bucks are just going to come out with so much energy after Game 6. They're just going to walk in there, and I think they're actually going to do it. So, I think that was just one game, one bad shooting night, but I think they'll rebound. So that's my predictions. I say Utah will face Phoenix in the Western Conference Finals, and I think Atlanta will be facing Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference Finals. So it's going to be very interesting what happens, but anyways, stay tuned for more updates. Empty Man Club Boy Bales. Stay safe, be smart, and as always, I love playoffs, and I'm just going to say go Bucks because that's my team. So anyways, take care.